Hey guys, what's up? So today I've got to go over a few of the trades I didn't get done over this last week. Um, Overall, this week was not an impressive week for me. In fact, it was not a very good week for me. And I haven't had one of these in a few weeks. And to be honest, emotions were a little high this week, and losses overall were not so good. So as you can tell, I'm down to 1,071. I was up at one point to 1,250 some odd dollars in my account. I'd have to go back and look at the video to see exactly what it was, but we was up literally, uh, at this point we were up literally almost 25% in my account, and we've had a pretty decent drawdown over this week. And I traded Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, had two losses. A loss on Tuesday and a loss on Wednesday. So, and I did not trade Thursday and Friday simply because I was kind of emotionally triggered. I don't know if I want to use that as an excuse, but my discipline was definitely not there. So I just decided to hold off on Thursday, and then Friday came around, and I was just like, you know what? Let's just hold off, and then we'll resume trading back on Monday again. So I'll be trading back again on Monday. And that's the thing, is learning to trade as a new trader. It can be tough. I mean, the emotions can run high because it's like you got this whole thing built up, and in a handful of trades, it's just been destroyed. So you've got to be able to work with that, though. You've got to be able to work through those drawdowns, though, because if you can't as a trader, I'm obviously not going to get anywhere to be a successful trader, and that's one thing I got to work on. So I took two trades on Tuesday, I took two on Wednesday, and I'm going to go through all those trades just to share a little bit about those. So the first trade I took was on AUDD on Tuesday, and I jumped in on this stock. I think I was in on this candle right here at 708. And what I was feeling like at that point was this line I have drawn right here was obviously where resistance was going to be at, because we got here, we had this little bit of a flush right here, and it built back up, and then we got to this candle and it started to push above it. So I felt like we would it went down and come back up, and we had retested it, but then it just fell short, and then on the very next candle it just dropped. So I jumped out of the trade overall for I think it was right around a $50 loss. I mean, it was a pretty big, I think at that point, 277 to 261. So, you figure that up, 10 cents a share, and I had 300 shares. So now you're talking a $50 loss pretty quick right there. So within just a few minutes. So, buying more share size can obviously give you a bigger return, but it can also give you a bigger loss as well. So you have to be willing to accept that when you're taking these bigger share sizes. Now, 300 shares isn't a huge amount, but for me it is, because I'm on a $1,000 account trying to build this up here. And, honestly, if I can't get past that, then we're going to have some issues. So that seems to be something I have been struggling with. So working on that as I move forward, and just trying to get above that. So overall in this trade, I wish what I would have done is just kind of held off a little bit, because I did kick back up, but it fell back flat. I should have just held off for a little bit longer, because it really didn't fully break the way it should have been. It should have gone up and then kind of retested, come down, and then started pushing higher. And that's what it felt like it was going to do. It just didn't do it. So really, this is a false breakout. And on the next candle, obviously it dropped, and then this whole thing went sideways and dropped some more. So I overall, that was about the one trade. I wish I would have got in on some of these pullbacks back in here on the very, very beginning of the move. That would have been the ideal place to be. So I didn't make it there. So that was the first trade I took on AUDD. So the second trade I took was on MLGO, and it was kind of the same problem as the first one. Now, if you'll notice with this stock was trading a lot cheaper than it normally does. It was down to around 80 cents, and I'd seen it doing this move, and I got in right at 723, here. So, and it did this, and I stopped out for a 3-cent loss. Now, kind of coincidentally, it made kind of the same move. Luckily, I got out before it did the flush, and I lost even more money, and maybe lost $100 on the day, because I took another 300 share on this. So at the end of this video, I want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to do going forward. I think I've got a couple ideas of some things I want to change going forward that I want to do. Overall, this stock is traded too cheaply. I think, everything else looked fairly good on it. The float and the relative volume was up nicely. I mean, it just was trading cheaply, and then range wasn't really that much. So, overall, the downside was that, it's just not going to make that big of a move. And then, so if I'm off, the 9 moving average, let's say right in here, I mean, I could, you're maybe only going to be a 1-to-1 profit ratio. So it's not as good. I shouldn't have even taken the trade. I should have just said, nope, we're not doing it, and stayed away from it. But overall, everything did pretty much line up. I think, the MACD was wide open. We didn't have these huge volume bars until right about here, where, we were starting to get a lot of selling volume, especially on this little flush right here. It just started to, wither as far as the strength of the stock, and you can tell that it just kind of went traded sideways and then really started to fall off as the day went on. So, for me, it was a no-go. But 7 o'clock, if I would have got in, a little bit sooner, earlier in the day, let's see, 7:04. So it did make some moves, but it really didn't start to make that move until it got up into here at about 7:20. So I was just a little bit late on getting on this particular move. Otherwise, it might have been okay. But, things weren't on that particular day, as I remember it, moving up the way they should have been. But, it is what it is. So that was Tuesday's trades I took. So I took 2 trades, 300 shares apiece, and stopped out with a total of a $63.09 loss. So not what I wanted, but it was below my max loss. I shouldn't even taken the second trade, but it was what it was. All right, let's jump into Wednesday's trade. So the next day, on Wednesday, I decided to, the stock that was really jumping up was REVB. Overall, this stock, I believe, had some pretty good volume. It didn't show that right now because we're obviously recording this a few days later. But the float was low. The volume, I think, was pretty good, if I remember right. What else here? It had a catalyst, I believe. I can't remember what it was, if it would even show it right now. Yeah, I'm not even sure what it was. So, but there was something, because obviously it was moving up. I took a trade right here at this point right here at 656. I jumped in, thought this thing was going to bump higher, thought this was a pullback. My problem with it was I should have not taken it, because if you look right where I was at VWAP. I mean, VWAP is a good point of resistance typically in any stock, because it's that equilibrium to any stock pretty much. I mean, so because it's averaging out the day's price and volume together as a weighted average, and saying, hey, this is literally the equilibrium of that stock. And obviously you're going to face resistance anytime you get up to one of these lines, when it's starting to climb up to one, the 9 to 20, the 200, and VWAP, because those are the places where your stock is typical traders are following these particular lines, and this is where it is going to show that resistance at. So obviously on that candle, I stopped out with a 3-cent, I think a smaller loss on it. And then at the opening bell, I decided, well, let's take a shot at it. And we got here, and then flush right here at 7:01. Lost out again, and not as bad of a loss overall. I think $45 for the whole day. So not past max loss. So I consider that somewhat of a successful red day. To a degree, but there's some things I want to change of what I'm doing here. Honestly, I want to talk about that here. So overall, these 2 trades, not what I was planning to do. Should have probably held this a little longer, and I would have easily come right back out of it. But I didn't know that at the time. I figured, this was it, and I should have just held it and went longer. But you just don't know that. When you do this, you're just like, well, the way this candle looks, it looks like a doji, and a doji means there's a kind of that fight between the bulls and the bears. And that's a lot of times signals a reverse on the move, kind of like where it's going to start going back down. And that's why I did move out. So obviously I followed, I got out, tried to save as much as I could. When I took the second trade, I ended up losing a lot more as a result of it. So on the day before, it was the first trade. On the second day, it was on the latter trade where I lost the majority on that trade. So should have just definitely got out of it. On this first one, should have just held it, and I would have been fine, and it would have been done for the day, and I would have had a profitable green day again. Not a huge green day or anything like that, but getting in down here, I think I got in at, I can't think what I got in on that particular first trade. Let's see, bought in at 292 and got out at 295. So I did have a winning trade there, actually. I did have a winning trade, 292, but I was still in pretty high. Yeah, I was in pretty high on that trade still. I should have got in down in here on this pullback. Probably would have been a lot better. So honestly, it is what it is. And that's the thing, when you buy into a trade, you can have slippage getting in, you can have slippage getting out. When I was on AUD, I remember having a lot of issues just trying to get out. So that was a problem. It was just trying to get out. And sometimes that can be an issue. I should have just got out on the bid on that, honestly, and not on the ask, because it can always take a little bit longer to get out on the ask. If things are moving decently, yes, you can get out on the ask. The bid will definitely get you out a lot faster. So that was the trades I took. So overall, what do I think about all of this? So when I look at my numbers, here's where I'm pretty much sitting at. 9 green days for the month, 6 red days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 red days. Bring me down to a 60% success rate. So still good, not bad. I mean, I can't complain. But my problem with it is I'm in a negative monthly P&L right now at $14.49 for a loss. When it comes to my profit loss, I mean, they're just not good. I mean, we're talking 1-to-1 and about a 1-to-2 here. So not quite a 1-to-2. So, I mean, to be a 1-to-2 on an average green trade, I mean, you have to be right 67% of the time. I mean, just to break even. So just statistically, that's going to be hard. And the average trade is losing 97 cents. Definitely went down on my success rate for this last week here, because I didn't take trades on Thursday and Friday. And that was okay. Emotionally, when you're triggered, you don't want to make trades anyways. That's a thing I've been learning. I'm actually reading a book on it by Gary Dayton that talks about this kind of stuff. And you have to learn how to not control your emotions, but just understand your emotions. And when you're triggered emotionally, I think I did the right move, because if I would have come in emotionally triggered, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered what I did. I probably would have had a red day at any point in time anyways, because I was just in that state where it wasn't right, So obviously, it wasn't the best position there as far as, what the ways things should have gone. So I was hoping for some better weeks, and right now, things were going good the first half of the month. Second half of the month, not so good. But maybe we can redeem that at the end of the week here. We got one more week left in August. Well, hopefully we can change this around. We can get the emotions a lot more hammered down and keep ourselves calm and cool and collective. That's really what's important here. And focus on getting things in place and going in the right direction again. So I'm going to be putting more videos out this next week for sure. So definitely subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to follow along, you can definitely do that by going to Trading with Chris or go to YouTube at Trading with Chris, and definitely subscribe there. I've got tons of videos on all kinds of different topics when it comes to trading and doing my regular trades and sharing my journey as I learn how to day trade here. And I'll be honest, this has been a bumpy road, but I'm just sharing it because I'm learning new things. I've only been doing this since March, and if you would like to follow along with my journey and maybe you're interested in trading and stuff like that, definitely subscribe to the channel, click that notifications button, and you can follow along with me as I learn to day trade.